Another African American substyle is boogie woogie, usually featuring piano as the dominant instrument. It also has a strong beat, using jazz elements as the point of departure. This music emanated from the lumber camps of East Texas, and it's a slow, heavily syncopated style of blues piano. Now, boogie woogie piano is at the root of rock and roll. Here's an example: Pine Top's Boogie Woogie, performed by Clarence Pinetop Smith in 1928.
I want all of y'all to know this is Pine Top's Boogie Woogie. And I want everybody to dance them just like I tell you.
Big Joe Turner was a famous jazz singer who performed with dozens of bands and famous artists in lots of different styles of music, big band and some other stuff, as well as boogie woogie. This is a tune he did with Pete Johnson in 1938 called Rollin' Pete.
I've got a gal lives up on that hill. I've got a gal lives up on that hill. Well, they both try to quit me, Lord, but I love her still.
Now, as for the white influences around the fringes of rock and roll, there were big band swing. That's one of them. It was the white man's jazz, if you will. It has very complex structure and large horn sections, strong rhythmic parts that include pounding drums. These were full orchestras with anywhere between 20 and 40 musicians, and usually at least one featured singer, often more. They were grand scale jazz ensembles, the descendants of the symphony orchestras of the 18th and 19th century. Big band featured great musicianship, even though the bands were large. Benny Goodman was a clarinet player who had his own orchestra, featuring Gene Krupa, one of the greatest drummers ever. On this song, or in this clip, they do Sing, Sing, Sing in a video from 1937. Jump blues is yet another style of music. It had jazz and blues roots as well. Very up-tempo, kind of similar to boogie woogie, but usually featuring a horn section. This style of music is one of the most important direct predecessors of rock and roll. It emerged during the economic belt-tightening of World War II. Swing bands were forced to downsize because it was just too expensive to travel with such a large orchestra. So they cut it down to a rhythm section and one or two soloists. They compensated for the smaller group by playing harder, faster, wilder versions of the swing jazz hits they'd become known for. Lyrics were typically risque. They also began incorporating some blues, which was just making inroads into urban areas like Chicago. From this music evolved what has come to be known as R&B, one of the main stylistic influences on rock and roll. Jump blues was less interested in swinging the beat than in hitting it hard. Then country musicians latched onto the style, and guess what emerged? Rockabilly. Well, Louis Jordan was one of the greatest practitioners of jump blues, as evidenced by this tune, Choo Choo Chiboogie, from 1946.
You reach your destination, but alas and alack, you need some compensation to get back in the black. You take a morning paper from the top of the stack and read the situations from the front to the back. The only job that's open needs a man with a knack, so put it right back in the rack. Jack, choo-choo, choo-choo.
Well, I hope you are able to hear how much more the music is sounding like rock and roll as we reach the late 1940s. Some people say this song by Wynonie Harris in 1948 was the first rock and roll record. I can't honestly say, because there are a lot of candidates, but it's a reasonable assertion. We will hear some of the other candidates, though, in the next few weeks. And notice we're back to suggestive lyrics with Good Rockin' Tonight, and we're also back to the recurring theme of linear evolution, as you'll see in a moment. Here's Winoni Harris.
Rockin' tonight. Have you heard the news? Everybody's gonna rock tonight. Gonna hold my baby tight as I can. Tonight she'll know I'm a mighty man. Have you heard the news? They're good rockin' tonight.
Elvis covered the song in 1956.
Well, we're gonna rock. We're gonna rock. Let's rock. Come on and rock. We're gonna rock all our blues away.
Well, you could hear the rockabilly influence in that cover of the song, but here are some more. Paul McCartney covered it in 1991.
Yeah, we'll rock. We'll rock all our blues away.
And a nearly identical, but not exactly identical song was released by Roy Brown, another jump blues artist, in 1948. His version was called Rockin' at Midnight.
Have you heard the news about good rockin' at midnight? Well, I held my baby with all my might. What a wonderful time we had that night. Have you heard the news about good rockin' at midnight?
And that song was covered by Jeff Beck, Jimmy Page, and Robert Plant in a band they called the Honey Drippers on an EP that was released in 1984. Louis Prima was an artist who rode the trends during his career. He started with a 7-piece New Orleans-style jazz band in the 1920s, followed that with a swing combo in the 1930s, a big band in the 40s, a Vegas lounge act in the 50s, and even a pop rock band in the 1960s. He did I'm a Gigolo, I Ain't Got Nobody in 1956.
Selling each romance, oh, what they say. And there will come a day, and youth will pass away. What will they say about me? When the end comes, I know there's just a gigolo's. Life goes on without me. But there will come a day when youth will pass away. What will they say about me? When the end comes, I know it was just a gigolo. Life goes on without me.
Yes, that's the same David Lee Roth you think it is. Louis Prima, one last song and a cover, one more cover from him. Louis Prima also did Jump, Jive, and Wail in 1956.
Papa's in the icebox looking for a can of ale. Papa's in the icebox looking for a can of ale. Mama's in the backyard learning how to jive and wheel. Oh, you gotta jump, jive,
And that tune, Jump Blues tune, was covered by Brian Setzer's orchestra during the swing revival of the late 1990s. Setzer, by the way, is an amazing guitar player.
Papa's in the icebox looking for a can of ale. Papa's in the icebox looking for a can of ale. Mama's in the backyard learning how to jive and wail. Oh, you gotta jump, jive.
When we come back, we'll talk about some other early influences on rock and roll.